was really state of fear.
The Refugee Law Project, which had hosted the civil society coalition since it started in 2009, was forced to close many services.
The suspension came in two parts. And the first part came within 3 weeks of the act being assented to by the president. And that suspended us from doing any work in the refugee settlements. And about a month, 6 weeks later, that suspension was extended to our main office here in Kampala. And we were told that we should not do any work that brought us into contact with our clients. So essentially, about 75% of our work became impossible. If you look at the Ugandans who fled to Kenya shortly after the act was assented to, many of them have really gone through very difficult times in Kenya and elsewhere. That exodus, if you like, of Ugandans from such a high-profile situation has helped to push the international community to improve its response, but there's still a long way to go. And my concern is that if there is a domino effect as one law after another gets passed in one country after another, the increase in asylum claims around sexual orientation and gender identity is going to outpace the already inadequate capacity to respond.
It affected us because people now went back, they were underground. People were fearing, others went out of the country. Those who were on art, the follow-up was very difficult, and the adherence, because they were fearing to move on streets, because some of them were known by the community that these are the LGBTI. We had to go and give the drugs because they were fearing to use taxis and even border, so they couldn't move. Yeah, and some of them can't afford to hire a special hire.
So what did you do in terms of people who actually had to flee the country?
Yeah, we actually had a challenge on that. And for them, they were like, we have to get our drugs because already they knew the challenges they faced when they stopped taking those drugs. However, we linked up with our friends and we would talk to them, and then we would send them the drugs, and which was very expensive for us. And others, with treatment, you have to see the person. So it became very difficult for us to send drugs when you don't feel a client.
For this law to be passed, these people were also very strategic. They were doing background work, and they were trying to prepare the population to give them support to have this law passed. Part of that strategy was to cause massive arrests and to depict people as rapists, people who deliberately spread HIV, to equate LGBT members as the pedophiles. All that was deliberate, propaganda intended to prepare the population for the bill. Because when I was arrested, the police officers were openly saying, yeah, at last we have you. We've been following you for a long time. They called the press, we had NTV, we had Red Pepper. And the DPC himself was insulting us. He even told other prisoners that on parade, morning parade, we were separated. We were actually four. And he was alerting other inmates that be very careful with these people. These are homosexuals. They can rape you. They are rapists. They can rape you in the cells. So be very, very careful with them. So when he came to me, he says, this one is accused of homosexuality. And the guy who was receiving us boxed me in the back, at the back. Say, you man, if you do those things here, we are going to kill you. Although even now it was dismissed on the ground of lack of state witnesses. But still, the exercise, the process, the entire scenario was an eye-opener that anything can happen. These people are also doing their strategies, and they can easily infiltrate. We have offices, we have activities that we carry out. I want you to believe that at least one or two people is a spy.
We received very many cases of violence, discrimination towards LGBT persons. And we wrote it exactly as it was and published a report. Within the period of the passing of the law and the period of our report, that was only a period of 4 months. We had documented about 164 cases. And these were individuals coming to us and telling us, this happened to me because of the law.
Discrimination, homophobia, was made lawful, both by the statements of our leaders, but also by the actions of the Ugandan media. Individual members of the community were outed by the press in what was a very unfortunate event. People were using bad words towards them, that they are child molesters, and all kinds of words.
I had been outed in the red paper, and I was on the cover page, and the headline was, "Top Gays Speak Out, How I Became a Homosexual." It created a lot of shock, surprise, and also fear, because I knew what it meant. I knew that my life was never going to be the same again.
I had seen the outings in the press, and I was really praying that it wouldn't happen to me. But eventually, it happened. I felt, oh God, I don't know. I felt numb. Our landlord told us we must leave because he saw the newspapers. He said that he cannot accommodate any homosexuals in his house. You have to leave or I will call the police. Richard received a text that news of his picture in the red paper had reached his home. So we traveled to Mbale, Richard's hometown.
But you don't know me at all. You don't know what I've gone through. You see a smile on my face, you think I'm okay. You don't know all the struggles that I go through every day. Oh no, oh no, you don't know. You see the smile on my face, you think I'm okay. You don't know all the troubles that I go through every day. Oh no, you don't know. I am tired, living in this crazy world.
There
reaction around Bale Town has been like bad because people received the message in a wrong way. They didn't know how to react. So they were waiting for Richard like at home. Whenever they would, like, even when he came out on the tabloid, people went and photocopied, started selling it around, showing it around to people, this is him. Because we were in a group, the Mama Sava Group Association. That's where Richard was. Also, he was a president. So when people saw it, and one time he introduced me as a brother. So after that, they told me they're going to recall all the certificates that given him. He had promised them some support, so they say they don't need this support because there's a time he came, so he promised there was a contribution they were making. So they told me, no, just tell him not to contribute. You see, because somebody asked, is it true that he marries a fellow man? Is it true that he is your brother? How do you accept such a person in a community?
Nobody wanted to be associated with you. Even up to now, people still fear to associate themselves with the name Lusimbo Richard, because Lusimbo Richard means gay. So when they saw me and you, when they see me and you, they're like, John K also is MC as John K is also gay. You know, he's moving with Richard, and Richard is one of those guys who agitate for gay rights and so on and so forth. So John K is also gay. You know, but I like it. I like it. I enjoy the attention because, you know, people point at you. And when you look at them, they pretend like they've not been pointing at you.
I've grown up with him. You can't change that. If he is Richard, it's Richard. So I decided to be supportive because I know he is who he is. You can't change what he is.
The time I was with you when we were at school were very great times that you cannot just wake up and say, I'm erasing this, I'm deleting this out of my history. Truth remains that you're more or less like my brother. There's no way I can wake up to say that now that Richard is gay, oh my, you say, he's no longer my brother. That's out.
I wasn't ready to speak about this openly with my family. And you know, you're not only coming out to your parents, you're coming out to your family, your relatives, your church, your village, your community. Like, you're not just going to walk to your parents and tell them I'm gay and you think it's just going to be that easy.
This is a human rights issue, that this act was a very dangerous act, and that if it was allowed to remain on the statute books, it would have serious consequences for the LGBTI community, but also for the wider Ugandan public.
Today is a very, very important day. It's a day when the international world and Uganda together joins us. Today we are saying Uganda, we seek justice. We are saying Uganda, we are part of you. We are just your brother, your sister, your relative, your uncle, your cousin, your doctor, your counselor. We need to tweet, we need to Facebook, we need to call, we need to text. Let's use all social media.
The legal strategy was carefully planned, but also put in a way that was to present this matter as a purely human rights matter. And therefore, the choice of petitioners was a very carefully crafted choice. We had to make sure that we had members of the LGBTI community, but also highly respected people in society, journalists, doctors, academicians, to make the point that this is not just about LGBTI, but about the legal question, the fundamental freedom and rights that is at stake.
In the legal preparations, I did a lot of consultations on a personal level on what effects would it be for me as an individual to petition. And then I was comfortable with that, being a petitioner, and confident that that's fine.
The court thought that if we dealt with the procedural question first, it had the potential of disposing of the whole case. That one, the law was passed without quorum, that in passing the law, the Speaker ignored the rules of procedure, and when the matter of quorum was raised, the Speaker was supposed to do a head count of MPs in the House. She did not, and the court asked us to address it on that matter. So we addressed the court purely on that matter, and the court found that procedures were flouted, and therefore all other action subsequent to that was then unconstitutional.
Danish Parliament, in enacting the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2014 on the 20th December 2013, without quorum in the House, is inconsistent with and in contravention of Articles 2, Sub-Article 1 and Sub-Article 2, and Article 88 and 94 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
When we won, that was, I said, one of my happiest days. We were so excited. As a person, I was so excited, and it was like a dream come true.
I would have loved to see our lawyers argue out that discrimination of LGBT persons in Uganda is not accepted, and also that the laws are not made in good faith, that these laws are very discriminatory, and also that they abuse our own constitution.
The decision was not satisfactory because it didn't deal with the substance of the law. It didn't deal with the substantive issues that we were raising, for example, about the rights of individuals to associate, to express themselves, to speak, and so on and so forth.
We won, yes, the court was nullified, yes, but if the penal code still remains with the same provisions, and then it is backed up by a court ruling that allows promotion of homosexuality to be an offense, then that would mean that we are back to square one.
In June 2014, the court ruled in the Freedom and Rome Uganda case about the stoppage of the workshop 2 years earlier. It was a disappointing decision.
We're surprised when the judge, instead of enforcing the right, rather applied the limitation of the right. He argued that the criminal law is one of the ways through which you can limit human rights, that though the applicants enjoy the right to freedom of expression and the other rights, these rights were limited under the Constitution. One of the limitations would be if the criminal law provided for it, and therefore, in his view, the scope of Section 145 extended beyond the Sexual Act. Organizing meetings and talks, all those may be included under the scope of 145. So I think that's the widest interpretation of the section ever given to it.
Added to this setback, we learned that members of parliament were drafting yet another new bill.
Immediately when the court held that the actions of parliament was unconstitutional, the Speaker of Parliament, in a wide-ranging interview with the New Vision, went and called the court all kinds of names. Went and said the matter of quorum was not important, and therefore that the courts were focusing on small issues. Certain members of parliament went around collecting signatures for members of parliament to bring back this law.
The Parliamentary Caucus had drafted a new bill under the name, the very clumsy title, the Prohibition of Promotion of Unnatural Sexual Practices. What is, for example, so natural about those same politicians that are legislating against unnatural sexual practices? What is so natural about they're dyeing their gray beards, for example. Is that natural?
The proposed bill is essentially the AHA in different words. But there are certain new additions to the bill. The bill now seeks to define what the offense of promoting homosexuality is, and in very wide terms talks about what constitutes promotion.
Promotion of homosexuality under this prohibition of unnatural offenses could silence any work on human rights on homosexuality, dialogue and discussion and debate on homosexuality, health work on homosexuality, everything could be silenced.
When we started on this road, we could not know what obstacles we would face. But one thing I have learned, they may try to take away our human rights and abuse us with their twisted lies. They may trade us in the very dirt, but still, like dust, we will rise.
Every time I wake up in the morning, praying for a better tomorrow, praying to God to really help change the things from what they are. Hoping every morning, hoping every evening, hoping every time. I'm keeping this hope alive. 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 Keeping this hope alive. Keeping this hope alive. Keeping this hope alive. Keeping this hope alive.
Jawa Janga